My name is Caitlin Nick, and I am here for the Open Door series, which is a project for hosted by Art Friends and supported by the Oklahoma Visual Arts Coalition and the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts through the Thrive grants. We do have a person from OVAC here, Fernando, who will be sharing a little bit more about their upcoming programs and the Thrive grant itself. But yeah, welcome. Today's our first day of the series, so it's the kickoff event. We're happy to have Karis here with us to present. Hey, Karis.
Hello, hello.
Karis will be sharing their screen and has a lovely presentation today. But I wanted to share a little bit more about the Open Door series to start us off. The Open Door series is an event that I created to really open the door to different ideas, different people, different opportunities in the arts, and introduce you guys to these different topics, but also ways to grow and connect in community. So it's almost perfect that Karis's topic is about that, about ways to connect with your community. I think they do a really great job at sharing ways to collaborate and things to keep in mind with that, but also their presentation goes into specific orgs in Oklahoma, which I think is a great example for how maybe if you're not local, ways that you can either get involved or create orgs like that, different collaborative entities. So keep that in mind as they're presenting. Actually, Fernando, do you want to start first about
Yeah,
speak
sure.
about
Well, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Door Series. My name is Fernando Calvillo. I'm the Marketing and Membership Manager for Oklahoma Visual Arts Coalition. And I see Ariana Weir here with us. Uh, she's amazing. She's in charge of the Thrive grants as well. And I would like to thank you all for your time. Thanks to Caitlin for organizing this program, which purpose, like you said, is to meet and learn from experts in our art community, like Karis today. And again, this project is supported by Thrive Grants through OVAC and the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts. We have applications open. Applications are open for Thrive Grants. So if you have a project that needs to be funded, you can go visit thrivegrants.org. And also we have a Tulsa studio tour coming up. It's happening the first weekend of June, which is the 3rd and 4th. So mark your calendars. This is a good opportunity to meet artists and learn their creative processes and just like connect with the community, the artist community, especially in Tulsa. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us an email or visit the website. And and that's it. Thanks again. And let's get into it.
Thank you, Fernando. So I'm going to just introduce Karis real quick before Karis takes it away with their presentation. Karis is an artist, designer, and arts educator working out of Oklahoma City. They received their BFA from the University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma and went on to receive their MFA from the State University of New York in Buffalo. Karis has exhibited works across the US and Canada, along with teaching courses in the visual arts in Oklahoma and New York. Karis is currently an illustrator and community arts advocate working out of Oklahoma City. Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Caitlin. Like Caitlin said, I'm Karis. I'm a advocate for the arts, and I love being a part of the Oklahoma City arts community here. I'm super excited to be kicking off this talk with Art Friends. They're a really wonderful, group to work with. And I think all of y'all will definitely need to check out the future programming that they're going to be producing. And obviously, all these talks throughout the week are all free. So I hope that a lot of y'all will take advantage of that resource while it's here. So yeah, to kind of pivot away from me, I want to talk about something that I think is super important and super special, which is the Oklahoma arts community, how they're banding together to create resources and how we can kind of contribute to that artistic synergy that's going on. So, I'm really passionate about empowering artists, building equity in our region, especially for those that may be financially or socially facing adversity in our community. So I think that there are so many ways that we can empower each other as a collaborative unit to build a stronger and more inclusive and vibrant art scene where many more folks can benefit from it. So to get into it, also, I tend to spruce up my PowerPoints to a ridiculous amount to make them more fun for me. So I do want to warn y'all in advance that I may have put a few too many GIFs in here, but it makes me laugh. So like, it's okay. I'm super excited to talk to y'all about artistic synergy, which is all about combining forces to create something that's truly unique and empowering for many folks in our arts community. It's kind of like superpower-esque, we're banding together mental and physical resources, helping other artists accomplish these incredible things by doing so. And not only are collaborative creatives making connections, but they're also learning to work with other artists, and they're creating a better sense of self and how we relate to community growth. So yeah, let's dive in. I kind of wanted to start here. As artists, we all have our own unique strengths and experiences and perspectives. But when we work together, we can really be blown away by the power of synergy and the power of numbers, right? And collaborating with others, we can create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. So I kind of want to start first by talking about how we can kind of benefit from creative collaboration and the power of that. So I kind of have a few points here that I think are really beneficial with working with others, working alongside others in kind of this collective headspace. So you have more capabilities to create really unique and nourishing work. When you're collaborating with others, whether it's on one project or multiple projects, you're kind of bringing together these different perspectives, skills, and experiences. So your positionality's kind of evolving, it's changing, and you're combining all of this to create this very unique melded perspective. And I think it can create something really special and really visceral. So being able to kind of combine those positions with each other is something that I think makes everything really touch on a different note. I also think that being able to collaborate and work collectively allows us to be able to tackle really big projects. There may be a time when a project it's too large, it's really complex, just for one person to handle, paired with obviously the financial burden of some unfunded art projects and how expensive, these big ideas can get. So choosing to work collaboratively with others, it kind of creates that split in labor, split in cost, split in brain power, which is also a really important resource we're using. And, you might be able to kind of facilitate these ideas in a way you wouldn't have been able to do alone. So being able to kind of split these resources is a way to kind of get those big ideas rolling. I also think this is just a helpful way to learn from others, right? Hear other people's feedback and thoughts, working alongside other folks from all practices and walks of life kind of allows you to learn some experience from others and your position within your practice. You can also be learning like new techniques, which is going to help expand your creative capabilities, different styles, and like insights that you might normally not experience in your craft. So it's really an expanding experience as well. Like I already touched on with working on large projects, like sharing resources is just such an important benefit of working alongside and with other folks. So collaboratively, like we are able to band together and perform this radical act of sharing resources, sharing knowledge, sharing skills. By pulling together these resources, we can kind of create this higher quality that you couldn't achieve maybe on your own. So again, it's that empowerment, right? We're sharing to empower each other. Outside of building community, I mean, this factor right here, being able to share resources, is one of my favorite and I think most beneficial aspects in working collectively with other folks in the community. I think the basic root of collaboration really is like just the practice of sharing when you break it down to its simplest form. So even something as simple as that is collectivity, that's collaboration, and that's getting us into that synergized space. I also think it challenges you, it brings you out of your comfort zone, right? You're hearing different minds and you work differently, and you're having to learn ways to work with other folks, which I think is so important when trying to avoid that kind of isolation-based tunnel vision way of working that sometimes is so easy to slip into in your own art practice. And who knows, you might discover like a whole new style or a whole new technique or medium, and you might just be on a whole new road. So it's nice to be able to expose ourselves to things we wouldn't normally assume that we would enjoy or benefit from, right? So obviously community building is a big part of this too. It can create this support system that fosters a sense of belonging, and that is helpful in our profession because it can be so isolating. And it's so incredibly important to be able to surround yourself with folks who understand what you're going through as working artists and are there to support you. This is very unifying among the community. It also obviously expands your network. Working with others, helps connect folks in the industry. When new opportunities open up, those folks are going to be in your ear, giving you that information, and like helping us kind of ladder our way up. You never know who you might meet, right? And what opportunities fall in line. Who knows, some very specific person that can offer you a very specific resource that would be so helpful. So it does expand those artistic horizons on the networking standpoint as well. Now, I do want to touch on some of the more complex aspects of working with and around others as well. We saw like all the great ways that it can help, and it's important to be able to practice and nourish that art to make sure benefits like that are healthy and they're present and they're working well. As artists, we find ourselves in a competitive dynamic often. There's almost an unspoken obligation societally to prove ourselves and our creative value to our community, right? It's very monetized in that way. We're urged to constantly be visible to the public, which is unlike many other professions and this may cause, urges to like out succeed our creative peers and constantly stay visible, which is something that's really socially exhausting for a lot of folks. And I think this does create that, that Achilles heel of feeling that isolation, feeling that loneliness in your own art practice, in your own arts communities, right? And it can propagate these feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, all of the things that artists' headspace should stay very far away from, right? So we have to nourish that. And honestly, I don't think that concepts like that get talked about enough. The oddness of having to be seen all the time and win every time, right? Like we're applying, we're getting rejected. It's a really interesting mentality. So there are ways we can use our community to help kind of like buffer a lot of that. I've found that with practice, we can kind of allow collective collaboration to ease a lot of the pressure and create a lot of helpful energy that kind of pulls us out of those social ruts. So I do think, a wonderful exercise that empowers us to break out of these patterns is to actually embrace the power of collaboration and our peers rather than repel them and compete against them. So we can kind of shift our focus if we are struggling with feelings like that. It's kind of a great mental practice to start shifting focus from competition to community, which is not always easy. Try to learn ways to celebrate our fellow artists. And if we do work on this does kind of create this shared celebration between the community as a unit and as a whole. So, it's kind of just thinking about working together and how we can all grow and thrive symbiotically in any aspect of life too. But, especially in the arts, social support is so crucial for maintaining good mental health, and also collaborating with others is this great way to build that support system to help get us there. So I kind of want to unpack a little bit of that. Nothing's easy. I think all good things need work and practice. So I kind of wanted to break down some ways, that we can navigate that space. So sometimes I think that this kind of learning curve can manifest in the form of like learning to work together and communicate effectively, resolving these creative differences in productive ways, growth-based ways. I also think finding balance between individual expression and collaboration is really important. We don't want to lose ourselves in the process of working with others either. So I think if we kind of acknowledge and tackle these challenges head on, we can begin to kind of see how collectivity can create some truly amazing work that we may never have been able to produce before. So some methods that I think are really important and helpful when navigating these concepts are things like setting clear boundaries. So before you begin collaborating, it's important to set boundaries around your time, your energy, your creative vision. It's super crucial to express your needs and your expectations clearly with your collaborators and make sure everyone, is on the same page. And on the topic of boundaries, social boundaries, and this is a super big one. You don't have to go to every art event when you're trying to support your fellow artists. I think that goes right along with boundaries. So like, if we are starting to work with others, we're supporting each other, we're promoting each other, you'll notice more art events start showing up, right? The more involved you are in your community, the more events come. And if you try, you'll never have free time for yourself. There's just too much good stuff going on at any given time. Your peers will understand. And when you're able to attend, you'll be able to give more grounded energy, toward your pals and their activities, and they'll be more grateful for that in the end than you like feverishly attending, every single event you can on a first Friday or something like that. Like if you don't have the capacity to be there, right? And they'll appreciate that type of support. And this is something I had to learn myself as well. Like I was the one running, I'm going, trying, I don't know what's going on. I'm confused, just trying to show support. So yeah, that's kind of something I've learned that is helpful when setting some of those community-based boundaries. And that goes for your own art events too, I'll say. Give your pals the space to come when they can, and don't be too hard on yourself. If everyone, in your community doesn't show up for a specific event, I'd bet $1 billion it's nothing personal, and it's just kind of like human beings doing their things. And sometimes, an art event isn't in that bowl of things. So yeah, so give yourself the space, give your pals the space, kind of let those boundaries settle in. And I think that's like a really good key to working with others. I also think embracing flexibility and feedback is a super great way to nourish this skill. Like collaboration, it does require this compromise, right? And this willingness to be flexible and vulnerable and creatively open with somebody, whether that's project-based or just trying to like maybe get an art space together. I mean, there's so many ways that you can collaborate. So be open to new ideas, new ways of working. Sometimes whole new creative paths appear just from the simple act of sharing your work with others and hearing their feedback, which is a wonderful art skill to nourish as well. This is also helpful for, creative blocks, I think. I don't know how many times that there's just been something that I'm not registering with in something that I've made. And literally all I needed was a new, fresh set of eyes to look at it and be like, it's this. And I'm like, how did you just kind of get in that tunnel vision, right? So being able to have a fresh set of eyes look at something can kind of like sometimes be the only thing it needs to like get your work into the place it needs to be. So being comfortable with feedback, embracing others, being flexible in those ways are really helpful. Make sure you're checking in with yourself in that process, about what works best for you creatively, but also personally, right? This is a really social thing we're doing here. I think a great exercise too is learning to celebrate each other's strengths, which is kind of that harder one sometimes because there's just that natural competition that societally is kind of pushed toward, like arts careers and creative careers. So, you kind of collaborating with others, working alongside others, you kind of get this unique opportunity to tap into strengths and expertise, from others. This means, you get to the opportunity to share and celebrate each other's contributions and talents and find ways to amplify them, in your joint projects. So social media is a really, really powerful, accessible, and free way to instantly do things like that, like amplifying your peers' successes and cross-promotional activities. Like Art Friends and I have been just like cross-promoting all kinds of stuff, and we're just giving each other, a little bit of zhuzh for things going on. We're both benefiting from this. I get to talk to y'all today about community, which I love to do, and Caitlin gets to have this wonderful free art series with lots of different speakers. So like, it's a really nice thing to be able to celebrate each other's successes and have successes at the same time, But yeah, I think that you'll find the more love you give, especially online to your community, the more love that you will get back, which is like symbiosis definition, I also think communicating really openly and honestly is a big key here. And arguably in all aspects of social life, but being open and honest about your ideas, your convictions, your concerns, your needs, encouraging your collaborators to do the same is super important. This is going to help avoid misunderstandings and ensure that everyone is working towards a common goal, whatever that goal may be, together or alongside each other. And this is a super important note here. I put this in all caps and in bold. If you need help at any point in your career, navigating, or in your mental journey as you navigate being an artist at all, don't be afraid to reach out. I think you will be very, very surprised how much of your community will be there and ready to lend you a hand to get back up. And I mean that super seriously. I really, really think that when you feel like there's nothing left to do, that those people will come out. They will come up. You don't have to suffer alone. Okay, so that's super important to me. I think mental health is just such a big part of our careers, and I think it's important to remember things like that. So, yeah, and all of the creatives in your community also understand many of your struggles to some capacity, and that is truly, truly unifying and special. So nourish that dynamic with each other as well when you're starting to work with other folks. And lastly, and this is going along with this mental health theme, but taking breaks and prioritizing self-care is going to make you collaborate with others better, and you're going to work on your own practice a lot better as well. Collaboration can be really intense. It can be time consuming and socially draining if overdone, so it's important to take those breaks, prioritize your mental health, also your physical health. You're a human being and you may have a special gift or a drive for something, but that does not make you a creative machine. And I think even though societally sometimes it may feel that way, it's important to nourish and care for that gift and that drive that you have, and schedule that time for self-care, whether it's, exercise, going camping, like meditating, whatever floats your boat. And it's important for us sometimes to not be producing, right? We were avoiding burnout in that same time. So that also means sometimes we're not working with others. We take that time to ourselves, our families, or whatever we have outside of this whole big, art career landscape we're working in. So I think keeping these concepts in mind will really kind of help everybody benefit in a healthy way, and can kind of help us as we're learning how to work with others and how to kind of redirect some of those mental headspaces that we can unfortunately be put in. So I now want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Oklahoma and some really cool examples of this. You're probably wondering, like, that sounds great. I want to collab. I want to work together. I want to share resources. Well, these are some places you can start. If you want, or maybe these are ways to cultivate some ideas for yourself. All these people created all of this from scratch at one point, right? And so, this is just kind of a world of ideas and opportunities here I want to share with you. So a lot of this artistic synergy is happening right here in Oklahoma. If there's any non-Oklahoma folks in here, this will be really fun for you. If you are Oklahoma, you might recognize a few of these things, but I do kind of want to give a little love to it. So yeah, these folks, they're empowering the community, they're thriving, they're growing, and they're doing really incredible work. And they're kind of proving that collaboration really can make some wonderful and empowering things. I kind of first want to talk about creative collectives. So that's kind of more centered around folks, artists that have come together to create art together. They're banding together. They're creating that all-star superhero team, the power band, I guess you could say, of art. And they're making things bigger than they ever could have thought. So let's see, who do we have first? So I want to talk about Art Group, which some of you may be a part of and heard of or maybe curious about. So Art Group, it's this really wonderful community. It's got over 50 artists. It's in the OKC metro, but also spreading throughout at Tulsa, Norman, all over the place. There's folks in Art Group. And this was actually founded by Virginia Sites and Caitlin, who's right here doing Art Friends. So a great example of how a lot of these organizations kind of have a lot of folks that are dabbling in all these places, right? Like you'll see a lot of familiar faces, and that's that community, right? Like it's seeing those people. You're like, what's up? I'm working on this project now, so there's just so much that can grow from this. So this is a perfect example. These folks, they organize tons of fun events. They're doing drink and draws, studio visits, exhibitions, field trips, all kinds of good stuff. And they're super into educating the local community about the importance of art and how it can kind of change our perspective in the world. By the way, they're having bi-weekly drink and draws, I believe on Caitlin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first Wednesdays and third Thursdays. And those happen at Rad Bar and Block Bar, but they are open to the public. You don't have to be a member. They always encourage people to bring pals. So if you have an art group pal and you want to see what's up, please come with them and learn about what's going on with them. Follow them on social media. All of these groups, I also have their websites and social names on the top here. So make sure to get that down if you want it. But yeah, so that's a really great example. I also want to talk about Black Moon Collective, which is based in Tulsa. This is a group of super talented Black artists, all based in Tulsa, like I said, who are all about breaking norms, bringing fresh ideas to the table. They're spreading creativity in those underrepresented communities in Tulsa. These folks work together to uplift and motivate each other to reach their full artistic and personal potential. And one of their kind of special missions is using art as a healing element, right? And bringing unity and awareness and hope to these underrepresented parts of their Tulsa community. And their goal kind of being to become successful artists while also making art that's accessible and equitable for everyone. So this team is pretty awesome. You can follow them on Instagram as well to keep up with, open member calls or anything like that. I know lately they've been producing a lot of great workshops in Tulsa. So if you're in the Tulsa area, you'll definitely want to follow them to keep up with their members, workshops, and individual shows that are going on. And then I also want to talk about The Sanctuary and Beloved Bones, which is a really, really cool duo in Oklahoma City. So they're comprised of a music venue, a creative event space, and an oddity shop. And they've joined forces, these two groups, to kind of bring this really cool local concert, DIY workshop, artist market space. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to talk about them too is that they don't really shy away from expressing their love of the macabre and the alternative. And they're not afraid to push those boundaries. And in the conservative Southern art scene, sometimes that's a bit challenging to do. So if you're looking for something that's a bit more underground or open-minded, I think these two groups are great folks to work with, and they're doing really cool stuff. A lot of you probably recognize this one, but Factory Obscura, that's a really cool collaborative group in Oklahoma City that's creating these immersive experiences. They're supporting a diverse group of artists and makers and kind of letting them unleash their creativity in all sorts of public art related ways. And they're kind of focused on inclusivity, making sure everyone has access to these public art experiences. And they have a really fearless arts community. And as an aside, I do think they're taking applications for new gift shop vendors right now. So if you're looking for things like that, that's also a thing. And I can help lead you in the right place. But you follow them on Instagram and you'll be able to see all that good stuff. The last collective I want to chat about, maybe my favorite, it's Jelly. So Jelly is a sweet little artist duo. They're based in Oklahoma City, Norman area, and it's made up of artists Jasmine Jones and Kelly Queen, who are pictured there with their little mural. And together they've been spreading like lots of joy and color and dreaminess all around their community by creating these really amazing public and performance art pieces. They both are affiliated with Factory Obscura as well. So again, these connections are kind of all over the place. And they've recently added a new feather to their cap, collaborating with Leap Coffee Roasters to produce their own tea. And it's actually really, really delicious. And I hate tea. So let me just put that out there. It's really good stuff. But it's called Dream Bits. I think Jelly is a really great example of how small scale collaborations, between artists can still make these huge impacts on the community. This is two people who share a common dream, and they're making big moves in the community by banding together and empowering each other. So this is a really beautiful example. And then I just want to touch on art resource groups a little bit. So these are more kind of centered around groups that are trying to promote collaborative work and promote folks being able to have the tools to do this. So let's see. Obviously, we know our friends, Caitlin's here. Caitlin made this, but it is a wonderful example. Caitlin founded this group with the help of community funding. Like Fern was saying, the Thrive Grant was a part of this. That's a big reason we're here. And it all exists because of collaboration and collectivity. None of this would be here without that. So yeah, there's some good stuff going on. They got classes, they got the pre-recorded videos that they put in their educational library. So make sure you're reaching out to Caitlin if you have any kind of want to be involved. I want to talk about inclusion in art. So this is a very special organization in Oklahoma that wants to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table, right, in the arts community. And that's something that gets overlooked very, very often. They're all about boosting artists of color by offering these opportunities like exhibitions. They got workshops and lectures that periodically go on throughout the year. They even have a database of contemporary artists of color in the area. They're totally crushing it. They are making moves as one of the most successful inclusive initiatives in the state. So they're all about promoting diversity in the arts. So this is a great group to get along with, to work with if you are kind of seeking these inclusivity-based opportunities. We've touched on it also. OVAC, they're the folks working with the Andy Warhol Foundation to produce the Thrive Grants. Fern is here with OVAC. Great resource group. Along with what they've all mentioned, they do shows throughout the year. For example, Momentum, that's pictured on the top left, is a great exhibition for artists 30 and under that happens every year, which is kind of it's only, what is it? One of its kind. It's the only one of its kind. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's really special, on top of educational opportunities and things like that. So yeah, make sure check out those Thrive Grant applications if you are interested in kind of working bigger and more collaboratively on that scale. Sunny Days Mural Festival is also one I wanted to touch on and give a little love to. So this group works to promote women and non-binary artists by creating really cool and vast public art while also financially and educationally supporting their work. So they're fighting against discrimination and they're ensuring fair pay, opportunities for artists who often face barriers due to their age or race or their gender. And it's not just also for established artists either, which I think is a really special part of this program. They're also helping high school students through mentorship programs, and they're giving smaller walls for newbie folks who are just wanting to dip their toe in to being muralists. I think that it kind of creates this necessary space for underrepresented folks who are wanting to delve into public art. If you have the time in the area, this festival is going to be in Tulsa this year, September 9th, and I think it's going to be really special. So if you want to see what's going on, how to get involved, that's a great place to pop into this summer. Sorry to torture you. I just couldn't stop. There was just so much good stuff. What I do, it's a fresh out the box new artist incubator space that's getting developed in Oklahoma City. So they're all about connecting and supporting artists and arts organizations through artist markets. They're doing workshops, they're doing networking events. They're trying to kind of make the connections between all of these art programs that are going on and seeing how they can kind of aid to all of them in one space. So their mission is all about community, wellness, sustainability, promoting community creativity. And they are kind of aiming to create this powerhouse arts community by bringing together artists and organizations to collaborate and engage with each other. So they're currently operating outdoors, in the Film Row area, in Oklahoma City, until their venue, Sailor in the Dock, is finished being renovated this summer. But when that renovation does conclude, it does have micro art shop spaces that are being planned in there and educational rooms. So if you are seeking a more alternative and affordable and accessible retail experience, this might be something that's a great option. But they're working on that. And then I have just one more. So we're going to jump over to Norman for a second. If there's any people in the Norman area, Oscillator Press is a really cool print shop in downtown Norman, where you can get obviously custom screen printing and really great design services. But what makes them a little different than other print shops is that they're artist run and they partner with local artists to create really cool drops of apparel. There's posters, they do zine drops, art prints and really wonderful stuff. And one of the best parts is that they do organize these Kick It and Create events where they're trying to bring together their arts communities, provide support and resources on site as well. So whether you're kind of needing print work for your own practice or you're wanting to kind of just connect with other artists, they're a really great spot to check out. Okay, so that was a lot, and thank you for humbling me and for letting me run through so many of those. I had to force myself to stop adding in collectives and resources. I could give hours of content for those kinds of things. So I did want to lightly swing a few really great art-centered business information your way if y'all are interested. All of these groups are doing lots of great work with community artists and are great resources for all kinds of good stuff, ranging from selling upcycled hand-drawn clothes to solo shows to local mural opportunities. There's a lot of good stuff here. So definitely check these folks out. Obviously, Flash Flood Print, I'm calling out because Mei Yang owns Flash Flood Print, who's actually another artist doing this talk this Thursday on April 20th. So definitely check that out, catch that, but also everyone else's as well. But it's, we all end up crossing paths. So I want to call out those speakers. Yeah, so I kind of just wanted to wrap it up. I do want to leave y'all hanging on to the idea that we are truly, truly stronger together. And I really do believe in our community that we can build a more equitable and accessible and approachable art community by creating these collective actions with each other. And when we team up and combine our skills and ideas, we create something that is seriously next level. I really believe that. And I've showed you all these great examples of work, like this, it's being done right now, that, this is happening all around us. So I'm really kind of calling on the creatives here, to really consider seeking out some of sick collaborative ideas or collective ideas like this, even if it is just sharing supplies. I think it's a really small way to empower each other and keep pushing those boundaries of what's possible for community creators while making some really cool art, hopefully, in the process. So, yeah, I think, yep, I got Q&A slide here. I did want to open up the floor to questions or just chat. We can talk about whatever. We can talk about some of these resources in the community, synergy. Maybe we don't talk about anything, but I did want to open it up, and whatever y'all find valuable, I'm happy to unpack here. I do want to jump off by saying that if anyone's wanting more information about any of these organizations or guidance on them, I'm super happy to help facilitate that. Fern with OVAC, Kayla with Art Friends as well, and I can help point you in the right direction. So that's my stuff.
Yay! Yes, claps and snaps. Thank you, Karis.
Snap. Yeah, no problem.
That was awesome. Well, we're opening up the floor if anyone has any questions or just any comments for Karis or anyone on the call, really.
That was really cool to see all the different ways that people are collaborating, because I've heard of some of them, but I hadn't heard of some of them. I guess what you hit on about the isolation of like not collaborating and not working with others, and that feeding into insecurities and feelings of loneliness and inadequacy, like that's so real. And I just recently joined our friends. No, other one. What's the other one? Sorry.
Our group? Yeah, our group.
Our group. Sorry. I've been in Our Friends too. But just to like force myself to go and be amongst other artists. So I really appreciate you having this topic. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and I bring them up mostly because it's all stuff I've experienced too. And like it just sometimes can feel really mental. It's so hard to be an artist. It really is so mentally hard. It's draining. It's hard to be seen all the time. And so like it's really just kind of years of like realizing this just isn't sustainable, like to operate in those ways. And I always like to acknowledge it because I hope other people will be like, wait, that's not just me. Like there's lots of people who feel this way, and like there's ways around it. And a lot of it is just societally, pushed onto us, like the way it is so competitive, and we have to be hard on ourselves always. We have to face rejection always. Like it's just a lot. So like knowing other people also feel like it's a lot, I think is really unifying,
Yes.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think too, it's like you gave so many great examples of like, this is like how you do it, and this is like these are people who are actively doing it. Like I also think that all of those groups are great places to go and find other artists. Like they provide the structure, and the, like if you're looking for artists who have something similar with your interest or your background, like like that's where you want to go, is like those groups for sure. And they're like in the theme of like open door, like that's kind of the vibe when you make a group like that, is that you are usually you're there to be inclusive, right? So.
Yeah, well, and I liked I wanted to have like a nice breadth of examples too, because I know it's very daunting to just be like, let's collaborate. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? I always struggle when I don't really have a base of reference. So that's just like a really great list of, super small scale, and even like collaboratively, like I work with a few folks together, like we all gather. It's actually Jasmine Jones's house, but we gather at Jasmine's house and we do, like I'll bring a button maker and people who need the button maker use it, and we just share all our stuff. And I feel like that's a super small scale version of that too, is kind of like just getting together, making things together. It doesn't have to be the same thing. So I just, there's so many ways it can look like, and there's a way for everybody,
It doesn't have to be lonely. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be like 6 of y'all hanging out,
Uh,
supporting each other.
looks like Jasmine had a question. They said, what some jump off phrases do you think of for like contacting or communicating with new places to reach out?
What I usually, there's two things I like to do. One, whenever I do have the space, I love to volunteer for those places that I want to get involved in, because that's usually a really great jumping off point. And a lot of the connections I have now are based on me volunteering with them and being able to work alongside them and get to know, the people that are running these programs. So that's a really great way. I also, from the artist mindset, I also try to reach out when it seems like maybe my work will coincide with something that's going on. So if they're doing, calls for any kind of specific needs, I usually try to shoot an email, here's my website. I'd love to be involved. Like, if you picking up what I'm putting down, like, we can work together. So I just try to also be really honest and human when I conversate with folks, especially if they're within my community. And I find that folks appreciate that a lot too. Email is my preferred, also first communication spot usually, but also going to a lot of these events, right? Like, as you grow your community, you start to attend a little bit more. A lot of that networking does kind of happen naturally. I was just at Sailor in the Dock doing a What I Do artist market, and somebody who I had applied for a job for was there and was like, I know you applied for this job. It was like a couple months ago. And I was like, man, I didn't even have to do anything. Like, it just fell into my lap. So sometimes getting involved has those benefits too, where naturally and organically, you can kind of start to grow that network.
Yeah, it becomes easier, in my opinion. Yeah,
It does. The more people you know, the easier it becomes.
sure. Well, are there any other questions? I think we're almost, yeah, this was a great time. Good job.
And I do. Yay.
Cool. So I will share the website page for Open Door Series if anyone wants to check it out, see what else is coming this week. Also, if you want to stay involved with Art Friends, we are opening up our membership back up after this series. So we'll be taking new members and starting it back up again. And yeah, so I dropped the link. Follow along on Instagram. That's where we're going to be really posting the news from this week and the new membership launch. So thank you for everyone who came. It was great to have you. And I hope you have a wonderful week.